Imagine a world where the air around you is becoming increasingly toxic to breathe, where major cities such as Paris and London are inundated by rising water levels, and where people are at a loss to whether food or fuel is a greater daily necessity. It is a known fact that oil is considered the most important energy source in the world, with communities using an estimated 34 billion gallons of oil each year in nearly every aspect of daily life. However, due to society's incapacity to comprehend the true extent that burning non-renewable fossil fuels has on the environment and themselves, very little has been done to reduce the use of fossil fuels. In order to eliminate these effects, scientists suggested using renewable biofuels derived from organic matter to produce renewable biofuels. However, when society found that even this method created new problems, such as the food versus fuel debate, scientists and governments went back to the drawing board. Luckily, Australia has the opportunity to capitalise on its agricultural advantages, and through the collaboration of the Australian Renewable Energy Agency and scientists at the University of Melbourne, their research has discovered marine microalgae, which can be used to produce biofuel. Their findings, which were published in a university report, highlighted that not only is microalgae a renewable and sustainable biofuel industry, it also increases fuel security and reduces greenhouse gas emissions. Fossil fuels are hydrocarbons, which have been formed under deep layers of sedimentary rock from the decomposition of organisms such as plants and animals. Over millions of years and through exposure to heat and pressure, these organic materials are converted into crude oil, coal and natural gas, which generates around 80% of the energy we use. However, burning fossil fuels is the largest contributor to emissions of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, thus creating the enhanced greenhouse effect. This is due to fossil fuels being primarily made of carbon atoms. When these fuels are burnt, the carbon is released and reacts with oxygen in the atmosphere, producing carbon dioxide. Thanks to the research from the University of Melbourne, microalgae biofuel is being used as a renewable and sustainable version of fuel. Algae farms are designed in a myriad of ways, depending on climate and the algae strain used, to ensure optimal conditions and biomass yield. These farms include man-made open ponds called raceways, engineered tubular glass cases called photobioreactors and fermenters, all of which cultivate a new crop of algae every few weeks. The microalgae produced is a group of fast-growing phototropic unicellular microorganisms which require sunlight, water, carbon dioxide and mineral nutrients to undergo oxygenic photosynthesis in order to grow and multiply. Microalgae is comprised of lipids, carbohydrates and proteins, meaning a variety of products are able to be produced from the microalgae, such as animal feed, pharmaceuticals and cosmetic products. However, the main product that algae is being produced for is biofuel, which is derived from the algae's oil. Oils are composed of triglycerides, which are 3 fatty acids attached to a glycerol backbone. These triglycerides are the most common lipids found in algae cells, and in some algae types they are comprised of up to 40% of their overall mass by fatty acids. It is these fatty acids that contain oil, so through extraction by breaking down the cell structure of the algae using solvents, the oil can be further processed at an integrated biorefinery and converted into biofuel through transesterification. In comparison to land-based plants, the effective conversion of solar energy and carbon dioxide into biomass and rapid cell division leads to faster growth and more harvests, resulting in algae producing up to 40 times more oil than any other plants used for biofuels. This cost-effective process, due to the myriad of other byproducts and year-round availability, proves that algae offers a carbon-neutral and more stable energy supply to be used in the future. In recent years, the demand and dependence on fossil fuel has increased dramatically due to population and industrial growth, resulting in 21.3 billion tonnes of carbon dioxide being emitted each year, with natural processes only able to absorb half of this. This mental image of coliginous clouds of smoke radiating from factories is a well-known depiction of the unfavourable consequences of the burning of these fuels, and has finally started to spark outrage in the media and communities. This increased dependence, fossil fuel depletion, environmental concern and ultimately society's influence has led to the communication between 179 global leaders to sign the United Nations Paris Agreement, which is set to have countries reduce their carbon emissions by a certain amount by 2020 in hopes to diminish global warming. This has led to the collaboration of governments, scientists, researchers, environmentalists and oil providers to investigate an environmentally friendly and renewable fuel constitute. Through the works of many, a newly suggested method for producing biofuel has worked its way back to the decade-old theory of microalgae. Due to the communication between scientists and engineers, the influence of new biodevelopmental advancements in reverse engineering tools such as genome sequencing and genetic transformation allow researchers the opportunity to identify and develop the most efficient algae strain. Australia utilised this development, and through the collaboration of the Australian Renewable Energy Agency and the University of Melbourne, they were able to successfully identify the most economic strain of microalgae, Nanochloropsis. Nanochloropsis has a high concentration of fatty acids, which are responsible for high biofuel yield. With the provided facilities from the University of Barathdism, the Nanochloropsis was able to be tested by scientists in both indoor and outdoor settings, providing evidence that it can yield up to 68.5% of biofuel, more than any other biofuel crop. However, while scientists were thriving over this new innovative method for producing biofuel, many oil companies who invested into the scientific research terminated their collaboration due to the insufficient proof that large-scale production would be economical and as efficient. This was evident in 2014 when ExxonMobil retreated out of a partnership with synthetic genomes after stating their scientific research hadn't progressed far enough. Luckily, over a 5-year period, Melbourne University constantly reviewed and advanced their development of processes used to extract lipids and commercial scale operations. Through the publications of their findings in biochemical engineering journals, Australia now has the opportunity to generate a large-scale algae farming enterprise, which is said to create $50 billion of revenue annually. In order to commercially produce algae on a large-scale production, the University of Melbourne underwent careful evaluation to ensure high productivity and yield to increase the economic value. The harvesting of oil and biomass from algae is a controversial and diverse method, with many different scientific organisations developing their own new and beneficial techniques, which they believe to be the most advantageous. The University of Melbourne used a scalable 2-step process, which separated algae lipids by using hexane, before then using a solar dryer to dry the remainder of the biomass and produce animal and agricultural feed. Through this technique, 95% of the potential oil could be extracted before going through transesterification, where a mixture of refined algae biodiesel fuel can be produced. However, whilst this process can produce the biofuel hoped, the university has acknowledged that further development of its method for processing algae biomass into biofuel requires more fundamental research and development in reducing solvent demand and increasing the rate of drying. Critics have been quick to question the innovative process, stating there is insufficient biofuel production and yield due to the contamination of the ponds from predators which feed on algae, possible evaporation leading to less biofuel being produced, as well as requiring expensive experimental research and equipment. However, these limitations have been noted, and ongoing improvements have led scientists to continue to enhance the algae biofuel production. This is done by developing different types of algae farms, such as raceways and indoor cylinder tanks, which are specific to certain strains of algae and dependent on environmental factors, including temperature, salinity, and pH. The ability for algae to be grown on arid land in which normal crops are unable to be grown in is a clear advantage. The use of saline water and production of byproducts from the biomass further enhances the cost efficiency, as well as offering a higher productivity rate than usual biofuel crops. This carbon-neutral fuel source continues to offer hope to communities around the world and helps governments reach their goal in terms of reducing the greenhouse effect and in turn global warming. Holistically, whilst it can be determined that there are still further steps required to refine this microalgae biofuel process due to commercial issues such as contamination and oil yield, continued research efforts are well on their way to solving these problems. Not only has algae provided a sustainable and renewable source of biofuel, which will not contribute to global warming to being carbon neutral. But it has also offered Australia an opportunity to create an industry in which jobs and economic growth will surge. Thanks to the collaboration between numerous organisations, governments and scientists, this new and innovative discovery will be the future of our energy source.